Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Crypto Amigos podcast. I am Chris Rice Crypto. I am joined by Rob Harris, Coach K, Joel Koskoff. We are three different content creators who came together, who decided that we would share our different points of view in podcast conversation style, talking about all kinds of different topics. We all have our own individual YouTube channels that we encourage you to check out. Links will be down below in the video description. If there's any subjects, projects, cryptos, or anything that you want to hear us talk about, definitely comment below. We want to hear from you. So we're going to go ahead and start the show. Again, I'm Chris Rice Crypto. How you guys doing today, man?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
Doing excellent, man. Trying to coordinate our time because you're in Thailand. I'm in North Carolina, East Coast time, and Rob's in Washington State Pacific Standard Time, so it's been kind of a little bit of a wreck trying to coordinate time.
Oh, it's wild. It's 9 a.m. I'm waking up, starting my day, and Joel, it's 11 p.m. Yeah,
it's noon for me. So, so we took a little break from doing our content, trying to coordinate schedules and talk about what we wanted to do with the future of this show, because we want to be able to record this in a combination of audio and with video as well. So we're going to be releasing this probably on all of our own YouTube channels. And we're also going to figure out which platform that we're going to start using to promote our podcast, so that would be available just on audio. So we'll let everybody know about that. But it's been a couple weeks since we talked, man. How's everybody doing?
Well, I'm good, man. The market's been kind of insane for the average person. I had some pretty deep looks and had a little bit of a loss, and I dealt with that okay. And then I looked at the market again a little bit more objectively and saw some really interesting things that most people didn't. And the one thing that I noticed is if you go back to the weekly chart on Bitcoin, and you have to go onto an exchange that's been around at least since 2015. But if you go back to something like Bitfinex and go on a weekly chart for Bitcoin, if you guys look at Ichimoku, it's an indicator that they use.
The cloud.
It's really interesting because there's a thing called Kijin, and what it is basically when the market tries to get back to equilibrium. So when there's too many buyers or there's too many sellers, it gets very far away from that red line or the Kijin's in. And what happens is the market generally likes to pull back to that point. So I started looking at that, and we were really far away from it last week, 2 weeks, actually almost 3 weeks ago. We were really, really far away from it. And my birthday was the 26th of June, which is about exactly 3 weeks ago when we hit our top. It was literally, I was partying my birthday, we hit almost 14K. And what I realized was, we got really far away, and then we started pulling back. Like most people didn't believe what was happening. And then I started, after got a little bit wrecked myself, I looked back and I was like, man, I didn't even notice that during our last bull run, we had 5 times that we touched the Kijin where we got too far away and we came back and touched it. 40% correction, 35% correction. And so this one is really coinciding a lot with that. And we got down to $9,050 yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking maybe that could be the bottom. It's really close to the Kijins, and I was like, no, it's definitely going to go back to 87. And then I don't know if you guys have been watching, but about an hour ago, maybe a little bit more, we just had a 3-minute $1,000 2017 type candle, and now we're over 10K again. So this is pretty intense and exciting, and this is crypto, and this is how it works. But if you look at those markets from 2015 to the 2017 end of the bull run, and you look now, if this is just wave one, man, we're in for like a $40,000, $50,000 top, maybe even higher. So I'm excited to see where this one goes for sure.
It was definitely a crazy day because I woke up and made me some coffee, checked the markets, went outside, smoked a cigarette, and while I was finishing up my cigarette, I was looking at another chart because I try to look at US dollar value and Satoshi value, and had noticed a spike. I was looking at Litecoin and just saw that huge candle where it just jumped up 10%. Mm-hmm. And now Bitcoin's sitting at 10.4. So yeah, it jumped from literally about $1,000. And that's crazy. That's how quick these markets can move. People don't realize it.
Really thin. it was really interesting. Like a lot of people are saying the order book's thin, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. But when the order book's thin, I mean, if someone market buys a big amount of Bitcoin or market sells, it moves the market immensely. And what we learned from the last dump was someone can sell, like, I think it's $17 million on Coinbase, and it drops the price by like 20%. And if they buy $20 million on Coinbase, it increases the price by like 25%. So even though people think like crypto is like this huge industry, and even guys like us do, it's really not that big yet. We're not in the trillions of dollars. And this is the thing with the manipulation. It may not be manipulation. I have friends that have made millions of dollars in this market and tell me like they buy like, you know, $16 million of contracts for one trade sometimes, and they're going for 1 or 2%. And when they sell it, the slippage is so bad because there's not that many people in the market, even on BitMEX. So it's really interesting.
It is. What do you think about it, Rob?
Yeah, I was going to say, you nailed it. It's small at the moment, so it's really easy. And not that it's, I mean, yes, there's manipulation, but even without an intentional manipulation, just a big purchase or a big sell-off is going to have a huge impact. I mean, we're talking, what, Bitcoin, it's 200 billion right now, isn't it? That's where it's at, just Bitcoin alone.
Last one, I can check right now. We're at
286, so it's,
yeah, so pretty close. So, you know, for those that are on the sidelines watching Bitcoin, because I talk to other business people in Seattle and they know I'm in this market, but all they think is, oh, it's so volatile and so risky. And I have to point out to them, okay, you know, that's partly what makes it exciting right now is the fact that it's the size that it is. If you want to wait until Bitcoin and the whole cryptocurrency market is a multi-trillion-dollar market, say 7 trillion plus, and then the volatility is small, well, and then who knows what Bitcoin will be at that point. I think John McAfee will finally, be right. It'll be $1 million something at that point. Well, then sure, you can wait. But right now, Bitcoin's not $1 million. It's a little over $10,000. So it's up to you. The choice is yours. Yeah. I'm in it for the long run. I'm not doing that's where the emotion comes in with what I know you guys are doing, especially you, Joel, with the day-to-day trading. And that, to me, that'd be too stressful.
Well, I'm glad that we're actually saying this, because like the conversation we started out with would be for somebody who trades, especially swing trades. Yeah. If trading isn't for you, then ignore what we're saying. Ignore price, because if you believe in Bitcoin, these other cryptocurrencies in the long term, I just encourage people to dollar cost average buy. That way they're minimizing their risk and they're also reducing the volatility of the coin. And all that means is, so if someone's not familiar with dollar cost averaging, which I know you two are, but you're just buying a certain amount. Let's just say you're choosing Bitcoin, either weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. You buy a specific amount regardless of price, and you keep doing that. And that way you're averaging out your buy-in prices, so that minimizes your risk. So if you're not a trader and you just want to invest for long term, do what I'm suggesting, not as financial advice, but as a tip, and just hodl. Hold on to your coins.
I think there's a third option. So day trading, you know, if you're doing that on a daily basis, reading charts, that's one thing. Number two is these markets have cycles. And I was talking to a friend who bought a lot of Litecoin. And when it was about $140 something, he doesn't own any Bitcoin. But he wanted to sell roughly 100 Litecoins and basically cash out $10,000 plus worth. And then the strategy was, if he was going to do that at $140 a Litecoin, and I forget, Bitcoin was, I think, 14,000. Wait for Bitcoin to go below $10,000, and then there you go. Then you'll get your one full Bitcoin. And that actually would have worked out this week when Bitcoin dipped below $10,000. But I talked to him, and this is the tough thing. So he's in his 50s. He's a contractor. And people are so nervous and so scared. And I got him set up. So he's using Coinbase just to make it simple. But he didn't know if he cashed out into dollars, if that was going directly to his personal checking account or a separate account. And that's what held him up, just that one question. And so he didn't pull the trigger, and he missed out. I mean, he would have made what, $1,400-$1,500 easily if he had done that just in a span of 1 week. So, and this market moves fast.
Now, if he would have educated himself, he probably would have been in a lot better position. And that's the other thing that I encourage people to do, is to not just listen to what people say, not just listen to the news. Do your own research, check out these companies, these projects, check out the people who are behind them, look at the fundamentals. If you don't know anything about trading and you want to learn about trading, there's lots of ways you can do that. You can contact any one of us and we can help you out with things like that. But again, that's not financial advice, and because these markets are just crazy, and you just have to really be putting things in perspective, and a lot of people don't. That's why people get wrecked all the time.
I think the reason why most people get wrecked in general is because they don't have any idea about setting up like risk management in any sense of the word. And like I'm like 90% through a course that I've been creating for teaching people like educationally about what the ichimoku is and how to trade on it and what to look for and all these things. And the first lesson, and I even make mistakes doing this too, this is why I like trading with bots, is risk management. So, there's a lot of mistakes. This is a really good piece for a lot of people to learn. And this is something that even you guys who are probably listening as traders will make mistakes of. There's a difference between risk management. There's a difference between your risk per trade and your position size. What I mean by that is, you have $10,000 and you're risking 3%, that's $300. But that's not what you're putting into the trade. That's what you lose if you lose that trade. So if you lose $300, you lose that out of your trade. How much are you actually putting in? Well, your stop loss determines that. So if you have a 5% stop loss, you're dividing that $300 by 0.05, and that's your position size for that trade. That's how much money you're putting into it. The average person doesn't know that, and so even if they have a really good streak of trades, they're not really making very much money, and they lose a lot of money. But if you have the right strategy and understand that, and that's not with leverage, right? That's just normal trading. So if I want to make 2R, I want to have more than what I lose on a trade. I want to make $600 and I could lose $300. So you can't put only $300 in because you'll never make any money. So it's about learning how to trade. And I think that's the most fundamental thing that many people miss, because they go to signal groups and then they're like, oh, this thing's going to make me lots of money. They either put too much of their capital into a trade or they don't put enough, and they don't understand why they don't make money every single month to pay off their actual signal provider. And so I think that is probably, and I've talked to like guys like, maybe you guys know Ricky Fundamentals. He's in Crypto Vigilante and a bunch of these like pretty decent, amazing people in crypto. And I've been talking to them and they're like, yeah, that's literally, we all talk together and they're saying like, it doesn't matter if you have Crypto Kirby or any of these guys that actually have decent signals, it won't make a difference if you don't understand that fundamental side. And then have a system where you don't actually let your emotions get involved. I've been a victim of that recently. I do the mistakes just like anybody else. But the thing is, I don't put in like 90% of my capital into BitMEX and go, oh, I'm going to play like a casino. If I make a mistake, it's like, I put in like, instead of 3% or 5%, I put in 10 or 15, and it really hurts a little bit. But then I learn from those mistakes and I remember, hey, these are the rules that we have to stick to. So it's a really good, important piece when you're trading, if you're listening to this. And if you're getting started, take your time, do test nets. Don't rush into it. There's no reason to rush into, do what Chris said, dollar cost averaging, buy and hold. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not financial advice, but this is just what you should do as an educational.
Yeah, I mean, people need to come up with their own strategies, and there's different ways of being able to capitalize off of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So you just have to figure out what's best for you, what works for you. Are you a risk taker? Are you an intelligent person? Can you take the time to educate yourself? Or do you want to play it safe, dollar cost average, and hold your coins for long term? Because most investments that people make on average should be 2 to 3 year investments minimum. People in the cryptocurrency space don't really understand that concept, and they're all about instant gratification. And sometimes instant gratification just leads to greed, and greed is an emotion. And when you put emotions into play, especially things like greed, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, fear of missing out, things like this, you're definitely going to screw up without a doubt.
Yeah. And it's hard to time the market right. There's people who have not got into cryptocurrency yet and they want to, but they're afraid that, it's too high or this isn't, the right moment. And so that is a factor, is timing that right. But we don't have a crystal ball. So, we could say, yeah, we think Bitcoin's going to go back down another 1,000 or 2 or whatever. But at the same time, maybe it doesn't. We don't know. We can only go with what our gut tells us, and sometimes we're right, sometimes we're not. But I always tell everybody, treat cryptocurrency like it's a glorified casino. I mean, we're gambling. There's no guarantee with anything. If you do want to trade, I do at least put a suggestion out. Don't take this as financial advice, just a friendly suggestion. I always like the 50-50 rule, where 50% of whatever you purchase, you hold on to that for the long term. And then the other 50%, if you really want to go to the casino and the table and gamble and buy this coin or make this trade, then if you want to do that, then do that. But half of it, I wouldn't touch. Just a suggestion. Anyways, my focus on the education side is more of the beginners that have never traded before in their life. I work with a lot of people that, they got daytime jobs, they're business owners, or they're in construction, or whatever the case may be. But this day trading stuff they're not there yet. So my goal is to kind of help somebody understand, okay, well, if you want to use Coinbase, or if you want to use whatever exchange you're using, and if you want to make some of these trades, here's some strategies, and just to kind of show how to do it. And then I know Joel, when you want to get to the more serious trading stuff, he does a fantastic job at educating. In fact, I would still consider myself a student. And
I'm still a student. I think every trader is a student, and if you're not trying to continually learn and understand the game, you're not actually humble, and you're going to make mistakes, and that's just the reality.
Well, if you think you know everything, that's when you've kind of screwed up, because you're definitely always learning, and that's what I try to tell people. As I learn, I try to pass on the information that I've learned.
But did you guys know? I have a 90% hit rate, and I never actually lose a trade. I'm always winning, and I've never had a down month, and I'm the greatest signal provider ever. Said no actual real trader ever who's humble, who actually really trades. So every time you hear stuff like that, or it's a scam, straight up. If you say to someone, "Hey, what's your average return on investment?" They say, "We always get 20% a month." Don't go with those people. They're gonna fuck you. Sorry, I swore, but really, they're gonna do that, and they don't care about you. Go for people who are gonna help you and educate you first before they let you throw your money in. My favorite thing to do, and then we'll kind of end this trading stuff here because it'll get too long, but my favorite thing for anyone to do when they want to start trading, whether it be on BitMEX or just regular Binance, I tell them put $100 in, learn how to trade. Even if you make amazing trades and your 100 turns to 2 and you feel really good, it's good to learn like that. And then when you go into BitMEX the first time and you leverage and you get wrecked, you lose $100. What do you do? It's a great lesson. You went to school and paid how much for university courses? Mm-hmm. So these are the things that I really encourage people to do, and use test nets and just try yourself before you really dive into this thing, because it's something that will either make you very, very wealthy long term with the right strategy, or it can wreck your whole entire life. So if you do take risk, don't take too much, and I would follow Rob's advice of having some and holding some if you believe in something, and not just throwing it all into the basket and seeing what happens.
That's smart, because you should never invest more than you're willing to lose, and never invest more than you can afford.
Yep.
But I like the idea. I definitely think that we need to wrap up this little talk, and this would be a good part for us to break the video up and go into part 2, because what we talked about prior to recording was that since we're doing a longer video, we were going to go ahead and split this up in parts, because unfortunately people's attention spans aren't that great, and they might just want to watch something specific. So we'll split them up in parts, and then you'll have everything 100% on audio once we get that up on the podcast. All right. I wanted to talk to you guys. Let's kind of go into the political realm here, man. We got all this stuff going on with the Senate hearings, with Facebook, but I wanted to start off with President Donald Trump's tweets last week, where he was talking about He's not a fan of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, which are not money and whose value is highly volatile and based on thin air. Unregulated crypto assets can facilitate unlawful behavior, including drug trade and other illegal activity. ... Similarly, Facebook's Libra's virtual currency will have little standing or dependability. If Facebook and other companies want to become a bank, they must seek a new banking charter and become subject to all the banking regulations, just like other banks, both national and international. And he says we only have one real currency in the USA. It's stronger than ever, and it's both dependable and reliable. And it's by far the most dominant currency anywhere in the world, and it'll always stay that way, and it's called the US dollar. So I thought that was, I didn't know if he was trying to do comedy or if he was trying to be serious. What do you guys think?
I think that if he looked at JP Morgan's 30,000 pounds of cocaine that were bought with very likely this so great
Over $1 billion worth, by the way.
What was it?
Over $1 billion worth of cocaine.
The biggest drug bust in the United States. It might have even been worldwide.
For sure, it's the biggest drug bust ever.
I think I know why that happened. By the way, and, you know, so if we're going to get into this, we're going to kind of get a little into theories and stuff. But I don't want to dive into Epstein too much. But I do believe that whole thing was being done as a way to blackmail people in government. And I think a lot of that's going to come out. But I believe this whole JP Morgan thing, it's been going on for decades. They've been bringing in over $1 billion worth of drugs, and people have been turning away and not looking at it. But the fact that Epstein's going down, I think people are turning on everybody. And that's why they were able to bust this ship coming in with over $1 billion worth of cocaine. And I believe it ties to Epstein. I'm telling you.
I mean, that's a possibility, but I mean, obviously we've had drugs available in the United States for quite a while, and I've always thought to myself, how do the drugs get here? And obviously somebody has to be turning a blind eye or allowing it to take place.
You have to remember the history, you know, and big families built huge fortunes off of opium and all these different drugs in the United States. And to get rid of competition, they would bribe politicians to make it illegal. But they put themselves into a position where they themselves are untouchable. So they still bring in the drugs, and nobody does anything to them. In fact, a lot of them own the prison systems. The same people that are bringing in the drugs in the United States own the private prison systems, and they've bought and paid off the politicians, I'm telling you. But there's a shift happening in our country, and they're using the rule of law to take these people down. That's what I see happening. And anyways, that's my take on it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't want to get like too deep into like the conspiracy realm, and I want to try to keep it more on track with the governmental stuff regarding crypto and like Facebook. I mean, definitely what you're talking about is an interesting subject.
And I'm trying to tote the line. I'm not going to try and go too far, but I do find it interesting that over $1 billion worth of cocaine on one of JP Morgan's ships is actually even in the news. That alone is actually very significant. So just kind of keep.
No, I do agree because and the funny thing was this bust took place a couple weeks ago, if I remember correctly, and it just came out not too long ago that this was owned by JP Morgan. So it took a minute before that information was released. So I had heard about the bust the day the bust had happened because I got friends who live in Philadelphia. So it's actually really crazy. Yeah.
But all this ties together. I mean, so if we're going to talk about the Facebook coin and our president's tweet and why he tweeted what he did, I think it was partly cryptic, but I think the main target was not Bitcoin. I think it was Facebook's Libra coin. And I can actually see the threat in it. You know, Facebook has 2 billion plus users, and they're planning on rolling out their own global currency, which absolutely that's going to compete with the US dollar. You kidding me? 2 billion users. So for a country like the United States, I can certainly see the concern.
No, I agree. And what do you think about it, Coach?
Oh man, it's hard to say. Like I think that, I kind of voiced this before in another episode that there's a lot of issues with these things, and I think that I found it quite. I don't know if you guys watched all these hearings, but I found them really entertaining.
I tried to, man. I mean, it's some of the most boring shit. It really is.
Man, there were some.
I
Did you guys see the senator or whatever call? He actually said shit coins during.
Yeah, that was Congressman Warren Davidson, who highlighted that he highlighted all the perceived benefits about Bitcoin and laid out how shit coins, which he implied Libra, are fundamentally different. And he also stated in a tweet that shitcoin is not profanity. Just so everybody is clear with this, it is a highly technical term.
It's a technical term, yes.
Economics. Highly technical term, shitcoin.
I agree with that. But I would include the dollar. The dollar is a shitcoin. It's not backed by anything, and there's no cap. That's if you were to look at the white paper for the US dollar, okay. There's no cap. It's not backed by anything. It's a shitcoin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like what Trump was saying, you look at Bitcoin and you go, well, yeah, it solves a lot of its problems. And US dollar is still and will always probably be, until there is no US dollar, the most used for drugs and criminals and crime by far. Bitcoin, they can trace it. So technically they could eventually figure out where it comes from or where it goes to. I'm meeting a guy who in Bangkok next week, who that's what he does for a living. They track every single transaction that goes through the whole entire network. Like they can tell you who's hacked what, where it's gone to, which exchange is going, everything. So it's actually, there was an FBI agent that actually said like, Bitcoin's the best thing ever because they can now literally know exactly where things are going, and if they track the IPs, they can actually figure out where the money flows to even easier. Cash, who the hell knows where the cash goes? So
yeah, I mean, Bitcoin is pseudo anonymous, and what that means that people are unaware is that it's a public blockchain ledger. Everything is written in numeric form, so everything like that would identify me would be from my public address. You could, with the right research and the right tools, go down the rabbit hole of that and be able to determine which IP address and all these other things that are attached. So Bitcoin is not as anonymous as people think it is. So when the news is talking about it being utilized for the dark web and for all these drug purposes and illegal activities, it would actually be really stupid of any criminal to use Bitcoin. If they're going to use a cryptocurrency to do something like that, they need to use a cryptocurrency like Monero, which offers that privacy, and you're not going to know where the transactions are coming from, how much the transactions are, where they went, where they're going, any of that stuff. Monero would do that. Or you can go back in classic terms and use the US dollar because it's constantly being used for crime. And, with what I do on the side, something that I have learned with studying money is that the two most common items on a dollar bill, any dollar bill, are cocaine and fecal matter.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
So on a dollar bill. So
the majority of our paper currency, yes, has both.
Can't
of that
snort coke with the Bitcoin.
No.
Sure, you can't. I mean, I don't know how you even can try.
Unless you have like a tracer with a straw attached to it, or like your Nano S with a straw on it, but it's not really using the Bitcoin.
But you're right, though. I mean, most criminal activity, especially big crimes, you got briefcase full of cash. That's $10 million in a briefcase. Here you go, and it's not traceable. But with Bitcoin, everything is on a public, blockchain, so everybody can see it. But I do actually, I want to take this moment actually just comment. So Monero, yes, that's where things can be done, on the dark web and stuff like that. However, John McAfee, I was listening to him recently, and he made a really good point. The only downside with cryptocurrency, Bitcoin specifically, as a business, if I'm doing business and I want a customer to pay, for the services, well, now they can see my wallet and they can see all the activity, everything going in. Well, I want that to be private. So there is a need for something like Monero. I would say that would be, as a business, I would prefer a privacy coin. So, but I don't know how the governments are going to react to that, because then that would be the argument that they were trying to make about Bitcoin for those that are not knowledgeable, that Bitcoin is actually very transparent, but some of these coins aren't. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, what do you think, how the government might respond to Monero and in the future of cryptocurrency? Because I think that is, I want some privacy, or
Yeah.
maybe, actually, I may have an answer for that, but I'll let you go first.
Okay, well, I mean, I think that there's a place for privacy coins, and the government is not going to like it, period. I mean, the government, as of right now, isn't really a huge fan of Bitcoin in general. I mean, there are some pro-positive politicians, which we can get into, but there is going to be a need for privacy. So regardless of regulation, regardless of what the government wants, it's going to be what the people decide to use. And I think ultimately the people are going to be able to make the choices they want to make. And governments can ban Bitcoin, but all it's going to do is make Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies stronger. It's going to give more validity to them, because it's going to show the fear that the governments are having and the reason why they're banning them. Talking like in India's talking about drafting a bill to ban all cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, except for their new to be created digital rupee. So you're seeing a lot of this, man. Privacy is going to be, privacy and decentralization are things the government does not like.
So my thoughts is, I think there's a way where we could still use Bitcoin or any coin like it that has a public ledger, but be anonymous in somewhat of a way. So, for example, Telegram just launched, I guess, a collaboration with PundiX, so that you can send cryptocurrency from one user to another. Now, I don't need their Bitcoin address. Chris, if I want to send you Bitcoin through Telegram, I just need your contact information. So now I could do business with you, send you Bitcoin, and you don't have to give up your Bitcoin address to me. So that actually keeps that private for you. Now, if the government thinks that you and I are doing some shady business, I'm sure they could go directly to Telegram and get that information. So
it's possible. Now, so with Monero too, I wanted to mention, and then we got I think around 25 minutes, and we should focus on the Facebook and government stuff. But Monero does give you the option to be able to not have it be private. So, and I believe that Charlie Lee was talking about working on a privacy aspect with Litecoin, utilizing Mimblewimble, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.